how do you balance quality, cost, scalability of manufacturing? How do you sort of balance all of that at the end of the day?
Yeah, great questions. I mean, that is the toughest one. Post-COVID, a lot of material was really, really difficult to get. Bumbo seats are insanely difficult to make. So part of the reason why is it easily replicable. Everyone has tried to make a bumbo seat, and it's made out of a material that is, I mean, it's almost every piece is almost a work of art. So during that post-COVID time, we were lacking material, and so we pushed out some product that we were not really happy with from a quality standpoint, but we're like, you know what? It's probably good enough. People like it. We got spanked. I mean,
Mm,
and
mm.
it's like people expect a certain quality and they want things to look a certain way. And we learned a lot about ourselves. We also learned, even if you're selling direct consumer through Amazon, they still want to see a package. So you can't just throw it in a box, in a bag, and it's fine. They need to feel like, hey, you actually have a little bit of pride in your product, and I bought a product for X amount of dollars and it needs to be good. So it is always a balance of how to do it. But what we've learned is you skimp on the wrong thing and you're going to pay the price.
Yeah, yeah, interesting. So I want to talk a little bit about maybe your leadership. And as you've kind of, gone through some of these challenges, what have you learned as an entrepreneur, as a founder? That's sort of maybe some of your backbone, how you're thinking about some of these things as you navigate some of the challenges you mentioned on this interview.
Biggest thing I've learned is I better change all the time. Um, I, there's a time in my life where I felt like I had the keys of the kingdom. I knew
Hmm.
exactly how to take a product from conception to success, and not many people knew all those pieces. Well, that was true for about 10 seconds. And then all the rules change, and they change methodically, and they change over time, and it's consistent. And if you're not on top of things, if you don't have kind of a more of a personality like you, Jeff, where you're just constantly testing and constantly going at it,
Yeah.
then it's difficult. Now, but there's a curse to that too. And you
Yes,
probably
there is. There is.
there's a curse to it. And the curse is that you can never set on something because it's always on to the next thing. Where my personality too is like, okay, you set on it and then you perform, but then
Sure.
you better start moving again. And so it,
Yeah.
it takes a little bit of both, and it's hard. It's a
Yeah.
tough managing those two.
Yeah, I would say if you looked at my mid 20s to about 35, I would be a constant state of pivoting. I was moving forward, but slowly.
Employee, and the guy was absolutely genius, but he couldn't close. He was just constantly, I mean, he had Post-its all over his wall. He had brilliant ideas, one after another. And I'd be like, "Hey, execute it." He couldn't execute it because he was just constantly moving on to the next.
Yep, yep. Well, let's talk about team. What kind of team do you have around you? What does it look like? I mean, and how do you put people kind of around you to help balance you out?
I try to put a team around me, number one, that will balance my optimism. And I'm a salesman. And so
Hmm.
I can do, or we can do anything. And sometimes that's just not the reality. And so I usually have somebody very close to me that'll say, "Ryan, that is not realistic." And sometimes I'm like, you know what? You may think it's not, but we'll get there. And so
Yeah.
there is the piece where the optimism will, but at the same time, maybe there's that night I look in the mirror and go, yeah, he's 100% right. And so you gotta, so it's people who will temper, but it's also people who are very positive as well. Just having a bunch of naysayers and negative people around you, that it absolutely crushes and stymies growth and potential to overcome the obstacles that are there. Obstacles are always there.
Hmm.
And it's interesting because I have one of my number one people.